All right, excellent. Hi there, everybody. My name is Stephanie Karpowitz, and I am with Junior Achievement of New Jersey. And thank you all for joining our JA New Jersey Executive Series webinar called A Day in the Life of Merck and Company, this is our first session called Career and Life Lessons from New Finance Professionals. Next week, our second session will take place on June 18th, and that's called Spotlighting Career Lessons from Merck Finance Leaders. So please register for that event if you're interested and spread the word if you haven't already. So today's presentation for attendees is in listen-only mode. Please be sure that your computer speakers are on and turned up, and make sure to close out of any program applications, any VPN, et cetera, that aren't needed during the webinar to free up your bandwidth to improve the video quality. And this meeting is being recorded. For anyone who has questions throughout the meeting, please feel free to use the Q&A feature, which is in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Please try to send them directly to me, Stephanie Karpowitz, so I can compile them and we'll share them at the end of the call. We'll go through those in a few minutes. So with that, I am happy to introduce Catherine Malone, the president of JA New Jersey, and I'll turn it over to her. Catherine?
Thank you, Stephanie. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to start by acknowledging that given all that is going on, programs like this that make education accessible for all people is so vitally important. And at JA New Jersey, we represent equitable access to education and development, ensuring that all of our youth have a voice and can truly reach their fullest potential. So as we've been pivoting to online and virtual programming these past few months, Merck took a huge leap of faith and became one of our first partners and panel experts in this pilot series. And to our panel today, we thank you so much for saying yes without hesitation. And we thank you, Cindy, Suwan, and Dalton, for leading this very, very exciting initiative. Merck has been a tremendous partner for JA New Jersey over the years, investing both financial and volunteer resources to underwrite student participation in a number of JA programs and have made it, including Finance Park, Career Success Workshops, High School Heroes, and our Women's Future Leadership Forums possible. So we thank our tremendous board leaders who champion the JA Merck partnership, Jerome Mihalowicz, Melanie Nicholson, and of course, Dalton Smart. And a huge thanks once again to Cindy Chen for moderating today's conversation. Cindy, you have been such a fantastic volunteer role model of Finance Park and for JA over the years. And with that, we'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Catherine. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for spending part of your Wednesday afternoon with us. My name is Cindy, and I'm currently a senior specialist in Merck's audit department. It is my pleasure today to moderate the session. So today we have an amazing panel with 5 of Merck's rising finance talent, and they'll be talking about their career experiences and learnings along the way. So just to give you a format of what to expect, we'll kick off the conversation with introductions before diving into more specific questions, which we'll have up on the screen, and then we'll open up the floor to give you an opportunity to ask any additional questions that you'll have. So in the next slide, our first question, we'll be starting off. One more, sorry, Seth. So we'll start off with the panel introductions, and we'll go in the order of the names that are on the slide. So Angela, can you please start us off?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. This is Angela Lee. I joined Merck in July 2019 as an audit specialist. Starting from this month, I'm currently performing a short-term rotation with a consolidation accounting group. Prior to joining Merck, I was an international student from China. I came to the US in 2011. I went to Seton Hall University, majoring in accounting, minor in legal studies. I graduated in 2014. After that, I worked in 3 different countries in multiple corporate functions. As you probably know, JA is a worldwide organization. I actually joined JA in 2010, and now I've been with this organization for around 10 years. So I really look forward to this opportunity to connect with you all. Next, maybe Erin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Murphy. I have been, I'm an audit specialist as well in Merck's Corporate Audit and Assurance Services Group, and I've been with the company and within the group for around 2 years now, next month. Before that, I graduated from Villanova University. I studied finance and international business and minored in Spanish. Since joining our audit group, I've had the chance to work on around 20 different audits, both compliance and financial related. And within those 20 audits, I've had the opportunity to travel to 8 different countries around the world, which has been an awesome experience. Thank you again for having me, and looking forward to starting the panel.
So I'll go next, and can everyone hear me okay? All right, awesome. So I'm Jonathan Sheridan, and I've been at Merck for almost 3 years now, and I've really enjoyed my time there, and I've enjoyed working with Jay a little bit, including today. So I spent my first 2 years roughly working in the audit group before I moved into a role working with technology, which I know will be a topic that we'll discuss more today, until I moved into my current role, which is investment and debt management. So a lot of financial topics, and I appreciate kind of my early education, which was all in New Jersey, that exposed me to some concepts in financial literacy and eventually led me to majoring in finance at the College of New Jersey. And I think, Naomi, I'll pass it to you for an introduction.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Naomi Smith, and I'm currently an audit specialist with MCAS at Merck. I came to Merck about a year ago, this month or last month, and this is by far the most rewarding part of my career. I had been working as a financial auditor at PwC prior to coming to Merck, and I can honestly say that aside from getting to work on my financial and compliance audits with MCAS, I've really enjoyed immersing myself in Merck's mission, which is developing medicines and technology to save and improve lives. And I've really enjoyed carving out this piece of my professional identity. So.
All right, I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Simi Singh. I just recently graduated from Rutgers University last year with a bachelor's in IT. I think my love for technology and passion for giving back to the world is what brought me to Merck. At Merck, I've been here for 4 months now, and I work as an IT audit specialist. And I perform risk-based audits where we analyze the effectiveness of the IT control environment across the company. I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Cindy, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for your introductions. This will actually take us over to our next question. So in light of the recent events, can you please share your thoughts on the importance of cultivating a sense of inclusion in the workplace, and what is Merck's culture in terms of diversity and inclusion? Naomi, can you please share your thoughts first?
Absolutely. So I think joining Merck, one of the reasons why I absolutely love being here is because obviously a very big part of my identity and the lens that I view the way that I work and the way that I live my life, being a Black woman has definitely impacted that. Given the recent events around George Floyd and systemic racism and the things that are happening in the United States today, Merck has taken a stance where diversity and inclusion for Black, white, and everything in between can be talked about, where you can come and share, really bring your full self to the workplace and share that perspective and learn from your friends and your colleagues about what it's like and how do we move forward as a better company for it. And I think that that's one of the very unique qualities that Merck has that I absolutely love. So I think for students who are looking into all the workplaces that you'll see, no matter what background you come from. I think that that's something that is, or that should be a part of every company's culture and mission, to include diversity and inclusion in the workplace and make it a safe place to have diversity, inclusion in the workplace. So definitely want to share that piece. And Angela, I'll hand it over to you if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Naomi. So with what's going on in the world right now, I'm sure our audience here in middle school and high school are aware of what's going on, and at the same time have your own perspective and opinion of it. So I'm really proud of our company as a community from Tone at the top are able to hold very open and honest conversations on the civil unrest caused by Mr. George Floyd's tragic death, and really listen to what our African American colleagues sharing how they feel. What I want to talk about here is that we are all in this together, no matter what the color of our skin is, your religion, where your parents come from, it all doesn't matter. What matters here is we should work and live in an environment where we can be the true ourselves, and people that are different from each other will respect, listen, and understand the differences we have. It's the values we share and hold dear to our hearts that define who we are as a person. And as a minority and immigrant myself, I was worried at the beginning that what if people laugh at my accent? What if people don't understand me when English is my second language? Then later, my manager said something I always remember. She said, people will focus on who you are as a person when they know you. They will forget where you are from, what your accent is. And I always have felt that way with Merck. So that's my experience to share. Cindy?
Great. Thank you both so much, Naomi and Angela. So continuing on into our next question. So aside from this situation, we have COVID-19. So due to this COVID-19 situation, everyone's currently working from home. Angela, do you have any tips, or can you share how this new way of working impacts you, and anything that you've learned while working remotely that you would like to continue going forward?
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. So while working from home, it's easy and natural to lose some connections with people. However, at the same time, I actually found it much easier to connect with people because we all have the need. You just need to take the initiative. So I started to set up a lot of virtual coffee chats with different people with a topic that we're both interested in. So we have something to begin with for a natural conversation. For example, when I saw a LinkedIn post shared by a colleague whom I actually have never had a contact with on the application of data science in workforce analytics, this is an area I'm really interested in. So I looked into his profile, and interestingly enough, find him being an American, had a few years of academic experience studying in China. So I reached out to him immediately, and I introduced myself, set up a coffee chat with him to know more about his academic journey and also career journey at Merck, how we as a company is utilizing data science, and what's the technology trend in the industry. So things like that, that would be also something I really want to continue after this COVID-19 situation, just to make connections with people and always networking and learning something new from each other.
Got it. Thank you so much, Angela. It's funny how you brought up technology, as that would touch upon our next question. So nowadays, technology has changed its form, functionality, and contribution to the world in a lot of ways. So our next question would be, can you please explain how you use technology in your current role and overall in your everyday life? And Jonathan, I'll let you start off with that one.
Yeah, sure thing. And if it's okay, I want to backtrack just for a second, because I think Angela brings up great points about bringing up a common interest to start what might be otherwise an awkward conversation, especially being remote. But I will say that it doesn't even have to be a colleague. I know I get messages on LinkedIn all the time from people who graduated from the same college as me, or not even just someone that saw my profile and said, hey, I'm interested in learning about Merck. So I'd encourage anyone, especially in high school, if you're looking for an internship, or once you get into, if you're planning on going to university, and you're looking for an internship, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Some might be really busy and might not answer, but I think you'd be surprised how many people would be really willing to just talk and share some info. But now I'll step back into technology, and it's crazy to me to see. When I was in high school, I still handed, which was not that long ago, I graduated in 2013, but my senior year of high school, I handed everything in on pen and paper. So it's crazy that I see classrooms now that can be done completely virtually from your home. So the speed of change in technology is incredibly rapid, and the biggest advice I can give is to just stay nimble and keep learning. But today in my role, most of the technology is data-driven. So if you think about your Microsoft Excel or your Google Sheets, everything starts with just rudimentary data. So really most of the work I'm actually doing revolves around that, and then there's ways to manipulate it. You might have heard of a tool like a Tableau or a Spotfire is something that we use a lot at Merck, which is different ways to visualize and parse out the data to really get better insights from it. But the biggest thing or biggest piece of advice I can give is that if you're able to take a technology course while you're in middle school or high school, I know I was lucky enough, my high school offered a number of computer science courses that I took that I may not use every day. For example, I'm not coding in Java or C++ in my role today in the finance world. But those fundamental concepts that I learned in high school, I think I still carry forward today, and I'm able to apply to different situations. So there's a lot of technology that you may be able to use and leverage, even though if it's not directly impacting your role. And then just in everyday life, to be quite honest, when, I'll relate it back to financial literacy, when I went to university and had to take out a number of college loans. So in figuring out how to pay for my student debt and how to afford things, I'm constantly using different tools and putting things into Excel. So I think that these are tools that can help you in a professional sense, and also, as you manage your own world and your own finances and things like that. And I think, Erin, you're up next for this one.
Yes, thank you, John.
Yep.
So as John mentioned, we, within audit, we use specific tools that help us to do our jobs, and that specifically being Spotfire, which allows us to take data from all different parts of our company and be able to see information that helps us, I guess, specifically decide what we want to look at when we go out on our audits. So that's just something that our group specifically use technology-wise. But I think what I really wanted to focus on in this answer right now is really the communication tools that we use currently to communicate with each other, and they're all virtual. They're especially important right now just because we're all working from home, and our jobs really depend on being able to communicate effectively with people that we're working on audits with. So that being, our other audit team members, as well as, people across the company, across the world that we're working with. So specifically in terms of, when we're going out on an audit and we're doing a job, we have to interview a lot of people, and that's all happening now remotely. Right now, I'm actually on an audit for a country in Europe, and not only the time difference makes it challenging, but just communicating via video chat. But the reason why I wanted to really highlight this here and why this is such a, it seems pretty basic technology, but it's so important right now because, because of COVID-19, we're all working remotely. But I think, once this, once we get past this situation, companies are going to, allow employees, or actually encourage employees to work from home more often and spend a lot more time working from home instead of coming into offices. So I think, right now where you all can focus is just start to think about how can you best communicate through virtual communication tools. So that being kind of in the context of if you're an intern, right? And, at least for our group, we had 2 interns that started 2 weeks ago. And because of COVID-19, their entire summer internship is going to be remotely. So they really have to figure out how to, how to best share their personalities through virtual communication tools, which is pretty difficult. I mean, there's nothing that can replace face-to-face communication, and sometimes it's tough to be able to sell yourself through a video chat, right? So if you guys can start to think about that and even start to practice, interviewing virtually, I think that would be really beneficial to you all when you start to look for different internships that you might want to do and different jobs down the line. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight something really quickly, and Jonathan, you mentioned this before, but I also think it's so important to, if you take every opportunity that you can get to learn about new technology and, keeping up to date on new technology is so important to every company and every industry. So taking time to learn about new things is technology-wise will never really harm you. It just takes some of your time. It'll be very beneficial down the line. So with that, I am going to pass this question to Naomi.
Thank you, Erin. So I'm actually working on a very cool project with a small group on my current engagement team right now. I'm implementing an audit system for our department, and it's actually been a very, very challenging but rewarding part of my my body of work with MCAS. As to echo what Erin said, I would definitely say to embrace technology and embrace systems. I think that it's something that will be and is transcending every industry, not just accounting and finance. And it's really allowed me to become a better, more sophisticated auditor when I'm currently in the configuration stage and still, implementing the technology and that we're using. But even, just this morning, I was looking at ways to analyze our business, as I'm sure you all know that Merck is a global company, and it's allowing me to analyze the business within seconds using this audit tool. And so that's something that I would never be able to do with the naked eye, or I would never be able to do within a day or weeks or even months time with any accuracy or efficiency. And so I say all that to say that the technology that I'm currently using in my everyday job is really transforming the entire way that I work. So it's actually, this question is really, really relevant. And so I would definitely encourage all students to explore technology, no matter what field you would want to go into, because it will be something that you'll have to implement and use and become accustomed to using in order to hold any kind of major process together. So I think this is such an important topic for our time. So yeah. And then with that, I'll hand it off to Simi if you want to add anything onto that.
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. So as an IT auditor, I look at the applications that are used at Merck, and these applications usually have certain IT controls that protect the security and integrity of the data, right? So these controls also have to comply with the company's security policies. I'll give you guys one example. So one such technology is an intrusion detection system. A functionality of the system is, let's say, logging and monitoring of suspicious activity. So as an auditor, we have to check what type of activities are being monitored or who is being alerted. Now, you might be wondering, what is that? What is an intrusion detection system, right? I'll give you guys an example. I guess a good analogy would be, let's say someone's trying to access your email account and they're trying to guess your password. What would normally happen is your account's going to get locked and you're going to get a notification about that. That tells you that something weird is going on, right? And then you can act on that information. You can protect yourself. So back to what I was saying, what happens is if we're looking at these applications and there's no such system in place, we know this poses a risk to the application, where in that case, we would propose a solution. So, the big picture in all of this is that as IT auditors, we're able to look at the technologies being used to protect our data, protect the information within our company. And with that, I'll pass it back to Cindy.
Great, thanks everyone for your great insights on technology. This actually leads us into our next question about innovation. So Here at Merck, especially specifically in our audit department, we actually have an innovation lab set up that John was actually a part of. So our next question is actually for you, John. So for innovation, it's even more important nowadays than ever. And if you have any examples where you've applied an innovative mindset to your job, can you please share with the JA audience?
Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. So in terms of innovation, as Cindy mentioned, I helped stand up what's called our innovation lab at Merck. And it's a really, unfortunately, I know we've done some on-campus events where we actually kind of toured the lab and our idea room which is used to ideate as well. But I will talk about some innovation that I've helped with at Merck, and I kind of start with a story. So in the corporate world, I feel like we often get caught up with efficiency and effectiveness. And whenever we look at a problem, we say, okay, how can we reduce the time it takes in order to complete this process? Or in completing this process, can we get a more effective result, whether that's more accurate or a greater amount of input? So when I think of innovation, I think if you think in these two very specific mindsets, you'll hardly ever be able to innovate. And I've kind of told this story before, but so excuse me, anyone on the line that's heard it, but when you think about how refrigerators came to life, before refrigerators, people kept their perishables cold with ice boxes. And if people continue to look at the problem as, okay, we don't have enough ice, or how do we keep our ice colder for longer, we would have never been able to look at the problem in a completely different new way and actually create a machine to keep our perishables cold. So when I think about this in terms of the professional world and the audit world, there's been a lot of scenarios where I've come into something and I said, well, you know, I can take this process and, you know, it would take us a couple of weeks, but we can write code to either automate the process, or we can create a better Excel template or use some other technology to automate this. But really, I like to always take a step back. And there's been multiple times when I was in the audit team working in the innovation space where I'd say, forget about the technology piece. Why are we even doing this? And I think if you always start with why, you always take a step back and say, why are we doing this? Does the way we're doing this make sense? You'll be able to attack problems in a new way. So the one big example, and I'm sure everyone in audit is very familiar, but we used to have these templates that people would take 2 to 3 hours at a time to fill out. So what we did was instead of just saying, hey, we can automate how the template is filled out, what we did is we totally revamped the template. We made it much more specific, and we actually made the process of filling out the template slightly different. And then we actually did write an automation in order to automate the templates. So I like to think of that as innovative because it wasn't just about efficiency. It wasn't just about effectiveness, but we totally looked at the problem in a brand new way. So that's one way that we've looked at innovation. And I'd say that that's really important for us at Merck. Our motto, or our corporate slogan, if you will, is inventing for life. And we're always talking about how innovation is at the forefront, whether that's our research labs, our manufacturing, or people like us in finance. So yeah, that's some of the ways that I've looked at innovation in the workplace.
Got it. Thank you so much, John. So we'll move on to our next question, and this one is more in terms of full-time jobs and internships. So prior to your current full-time jobs, some of the panelists had internships. So can you share any tips from your experiences that led to a completion of a successful internship? And Naomi, I'll let you start off with that one.
Yes, I would say my biggest piece of advice is to be engaged and to really reflect on your internship experience and what it is that you're doing. I had my first internship experience when I was in college, and that's really when I got a sense of what a career outlook would look like, or what a career pathway would look like with an accounting degree and with a CPA license. And I think that's really, really critical for students. A big part of why I came to Merck was because I wanted to feel a lot closer to, you know, my passion. I wanted to feel a lot closer. I wanted to carve out a professional identity for myself that really that I was really engaged in and really very passionate about. And so my advice to students is that when you get your first internship experience, to come and be present and ask questions and really try to learn about what the role is and what opportunities what opportunities are going to be presented to you as a result of being in that role or being with a certain company, because I think that's really the heart of why you're obtaining a certain education or a certain type of background, because you really want to align yourself with work that you love. And I think that an internship is a great way to do that. So with that, I'll hand it off to Erin.
Thank you, Naomi. So similar to what you said, so I had my first internship experience in college, and I had a few, but I think the one that was most successful for me was between my junior and senior year, and it was at Campbell's Soup Company, and I was a finance intern. And the reason why I bring this up in terms of, you know, tips that I want to share on behalf of my experience is that, you know, in addition to focusing on, you know, putting as much effort as you can into any assignments that you're given by the group that you're working with, or any projects that you're participating in addition to working really hard on those, I think the best thing to do is take full advantage of meeting new people in the company. And that really goes into, you know, starting to work on your networking skills, which is a skill that you'll use for the rest of your life, you know, both career-wise and, you know, personal. But the reason I say that is I think the best way to learn is from other people's experiences. So by talking to people, you know, in addition to the work that you're doing, of course, as an intern, but talking to people and learning about their experiences at the company and their career paths is extremely helpful and provides really good learning, especially to an intern who is, you know, really in that learning phase. That, you know, at least for me, I didn't really know too much after or before I interned. So really taking full advantage of that opportunity to meet people, and not only for your own personal learning, but also in terms of just learning how the company that you're working at operates. So if you're meeting with, so if you're working directly with a small group of people, and for me that was within finance, but it was you know, finance had a ton of different groups. By meeting with other people, I got the chance to learn about how different groups within finance work together, as well as, you know, so many departments outside of finance. And Campbell Soup was the first corporation that I ever worked for. So being able to meet with different people allowed me to understand how these different departments interact, as well as how a big corporation operates, which I had no exposure to before. And, you know, by meeting with people directly and them sharing their experiences, it was a lot easier to understand how that works. And I think just having sort of it gives you sort of a broad perspective of how a company works. And I think overall that's really valued by employers if you have some sort of understanding about how companies operate. And then just, you know, specific to your internship, if you take the initiative to reach out to people, to meet with people, speak with people, even just casually, it looks really, really good, because it looks like you know, to the people that you're working with, it looks like you're really taking initiative, you really care about this job, and you really, you know, want to put a lot of effort into understanding the company. And, you know, that's especially important if you are thinking of maybe working at this company full time in the future. And that's, you know, kind of what helped me in my experience as well. Just, you know, being able to show that you care about learning. It's extremely important. And then with that, I think the last two things I want to say is one, you know, being an intern, it's a little bit intimidating reaching out to the people. You know, being a new employee in general is a little bit intimidating. But, you know, with that being said, I don't think you should be afraid to ask people to meet up and talk for a few minutes. You know, for me, you know, it was hard to reach out to different people at higher levels, such as directors, executive directors. You know, it made me a little bit nervous, but I think being an intern gives you a unique opportunity, because a lot of people are really interested in meeting with interns and kind of teaching them whatever they can, offering any advice that they can, which is awesome. And, you know, I think the worst thing that could ever happen is someone says no because they don't have time or, you know, whatever reason. But, you know, that wouldn't negatively impact you in any way. So definitely try to put the effort in. It's scary, but it shouldn't have to be. And then, you know, that being said as well, you know, don't be afraid to also, if you don't want to initiate those meetings, you know, ask the people that you're working with directly every day if they can set some meetings up with you, with some people that are in their network already. And that's definitely a lot easier for you. You know, I'm sure they'd be very willing to set those meetings up to kind of teach you more about the company. Because in general, you know, companies really want to keep their interns. So they would definitely be invested in and would most likely help you with that. So with that, I think I will turn it back to Cindy.
Great, thanks Naomi and Erin for your internship tips. So we also do have a lot of high school and middle school students on the line. So our next question is, can you share if you have any good habits that you've developed over the years or during your school days that helped you to get to where you are today? Such as, are there any high school activities that taught you skills that are valuable to you still now? And Angela, I'll let you start off with this question.
Yeah, sure. So because I came to the US for college, I might have a different high school experience than yours, but my school slogan at that time was dedicated to develop responsible citizens for the society. No matter where they are, they will always be confident for themselves and loving to others. So that has a huge impact on me for my life after high school. Middle school and high school are key periods in our lifetime to build our fundamental values. Going into college, in most cases, we are far from parents and have more freedom. And these values we have built will determine the decisions we will be making, which can change the course of our life going forward. I was a journalist for a magazine that we students own at that time. So I was always questioning and writing. I did a lot of reading during that time on different subjects. That habit of critical thinking and also actively searching for answers based on facts definitely helped me to get where I am today. With that being said, I will pass it to Erin.
Thanks, Angela. So I think when I think about high school and how it benefited me the most, I think the best habit that I probably developed was related to time management. And, you know, being able to manage your time effectively is a skill that you use for the rest of your life, you know, not even just for work, but even your personal life as well. And I think in high school, there's so many things going on, right? You have all of your classes which are, you know, a ton of work just by themselves, but then there's so many different activities you can get involved in, right? So when I was in high school, I participated in, I was on the volleyball team, which was really fun. You know, I don't know if you are interested in sports, but, you know, that's definitely one activity that also helps a lot with managing your time, given that, you know, there's a lot of practices and whatnot. But any sort of activity that kind of requires a strong commitment and something you're passionate about is, you know, something really good to get involved in. And if you're planning on going to college, it always helps to have to round out your college resume with a bunch of different diverse experiences. So sports, obviously your classes, but other extracurriculars like different honor societies, different volunteer organizations that you might be able to get involved in, you know, things like the newspaper or a yearbook. There's different things that require you to learn how to manage your time and be able to balance everything. You know, especially when you get to work, there's always work that you can be doing when you start working full time. So you really have to know how to prioritize the most important things. And that really will allow you to balance work and your personal life as well, because you can't be working all day, every day. You have to, you know, make time for yourself, for your friends and family. So that's really important. I think that was probably the most important skill that I developed then. And then I just wanted to make a point about the fact that, so coming from our group, I am involved with recruiting. And I think when we look at candidates, things that we really like to focus on are different leadership skills that students develop. So if you have the opportunity to try to get involved with, you know, being a leader of any sort of organization, any sort of activity at your school, to help you start to develop those skills, because those are also extremely important skills and also something that you will work on for the rest of your career. So just keep that in mind as well. And then with that, I want to pass the question on to Simi.
Thanks, Erin. So I think getting organized is one of the most important skills I've developed over the years during my time at high school, college, and I think it's a skill that can help you for the rest of your life. As students, you guys have to balance between homework, exams, other extracurricular activities, right? So sometimes you can forget about some of these things, miss an assignment that was due. I know I've been there. Just to avoid this, just get a planner, write down your assignments, exams, to-do lists, you know, and check that planner daily. You know, it's going to help you as you move along with your education and go to college. And during college, there's a lot more freedom there, and it can get very easy to get overwhelmed with schoolwork if you're not keeping track of things, you know. And you can even get a phone on your app instead if you prefer that. But definitely develop this habit as it'll help you in the long run. And with that, I'll pass it back to Cindy.
Great, thanks everyone. So I know we've been doing a lot of talking, but just wanted to remind everyone on the line that if you do have any additional questions that we are not asking yet, feel free to use the Q&A box to send Stephanie the questions. But with that said, I'll move on to our next question for the time being. So do you still have to get any training for what you do, or is there any career-related continuous learning that you personally choose to engage in? And Erin, I'll let you start off with this one.
Thanks, Cindy. So I think in regarding to training, I just want to highlight, so for our industry, the pharmaceutical industry is constantly changing, and, you know, especially, you know, working for Merck, but especially as auditors, we need to stay knowledgeable about everything that's changing in our industry. So that means, you know, pretty constant trainings on behalf of our company, but also specifically to our group as well. You know, our group really is based on evaluating other groups in our company based on different, you know, based on these changes in the industry. So if we don't stay up to date on them, then we can't really benefit the company as much as we should be able to. And then, you know, just in terms of personal training that I personally choose to engage in, I would say there's a lot of, I'm sure you've all heard of this before, but there's a lot of classes that are free online. And there's so many different websites to choose from where, you know, if you want to continue learning about a specific topic, maybe that you heard about in school, or even something that you heard about online, or, you know, through one of these panels even. But one that I've used in the past is called edx.org. And there's so many different classes that are posted there. You know, specifically for me, I've looked at ones about the pharmaceutical industry and different regulations from the government, but there's also a lot of ones about finance if you want to learn more about that, more than you're already learning in school, as well as, you know, different technologies like blockchain. You know, the list goes on, and a lot of really good schools are posting them as well, like different Ivy Leagues and, you know, Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, all across the country. And what I like about these is that, you know, there's not a ton of pressure, right? You can really self-regulate when you want to take classes, when you want to work on your skills and different professional development. So I think, you know, personally, that would be something that I would recommend to take a look at. The only way that it would really harm you is just taking some of your time away to look it up. But I think, you know, before I pass it, I just wanted to make one point, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, but, you know, learning about technology. If you have the opportunity to, if you have the time to learn about new technology, I would definitely encourage you all to, you know, search online and see if there are any courses that might interest you for free, you know, just to see if that's something that you'd be interested in. So. And with that, I will turn it to Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. And I'll start with this question by saying that continuous learning was something kind of that was an abyss to me moving into the professional world. One of the biggest misconceptions I had coming out of college was I would come to work, I would do my 2 weeks of training, and then I knew my job, and I could just kind of go with it for however many years. And that is absolutely not the case. I'd say training happens informally, almost on an everyday basis. But I will talk about, I've kind of grouped it into three big types of training. So there's what I'll call formal training, and I think Merck does a really good job of that. And that's when we'll bring in an outside party, a consultant who's an expert in an area, or people who are experts within our own company will lead a training. Where it's kind of a classroom style generally. It's very similar to how you might learn in middle school, high school, or even college. But I would say something that you can even do when you're in middle school or high school is kind of this informal training, especially if you're in like a study hall where just with friends. And that is when you're really learning from each other. And I find a lot of times at Merck, we've set up informal trainings, and I know I've done it with some of my wonderful colleagues in audit that are on the call here, where we just want to talk about a topic or a concept that one of us has familiarity in already. So I would definitely encourage that kind of informal learning. And then the third one, and thank you, Aaron, for touching on it and going deep, but there's so much free information out there on the web. From, just like Aaron said, right before I came to Merck, I even took a class about healthcare from the University of Pennsylvania. So really elite schools are sometimes posting their classes for absolutely free. So in addition to edX, I know Udemy will run kind of really cheap sales where you can get a full course for $10 or less, but for absolutely free, there's even great stuff on YouTube or LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning will offer free specials as well. So I would definitely encourage a breadth of resources where you're going to get your training from over time. And but on that note, I'll pass it over to Naomi to talk more about training.
Yes, so I guess kind of to just echo what everyone else has said, the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare industry are constantly growing and changing and are highly complex and highly regulated, but also by virtue of being an auditor and a CPA, a licensed CPA, that's also that's also a profession that's growing and changing with the industry that I'm serving. So yes, continuous learning will always be a part of my everyday life and my everyday work in order to keep up with industry changes and to be effective at my job. So yes, and the continuous learning is also is always present. And then, yeah, I do choose to engage in continuous learning on my own. Like I said, I came to Merck for very specific reasons. I was very passionate about Merck's mission, and just with a lot of the people on this call, some of my direct reports, I've been working on getting closer with our research laboratories, doing more work with patient innovation and engagement, and those have been really, really, it's been a really, really rewarding process for me. And so, yes, it's just nice that I've been fully supported in that as well. So with that, I'll hand it off to Simi.
Thanks, Naomi. I think the training and the learning never really stops. The more you work, the more experience you get, and with experience, you get more efficiency. You're able to do the same tasks that you've done before in a faster or easier manner, right? You just become more efficient overall. And the professional opportunities are always there. It doesn't matter what line of work you're in. And for me personally, right now as an IT auditor, I'm studying for my CISA certification. And it's funny, the online resources that Aaron and Jonathan mentioned, such as Udemy, that's exactly what I'm utilizing right now to study for it. And it's going to be a great resume builder for me, and it'll help me advance in my career in the future. And with that, Cindy, you can take it on.
Great, thanks. So we did talk a lot about learnings and trainings and work itself. So our last question that I had for the panelists is, what do you guys do in your free time? And then how do you balance time between your career and personal interests? And John, I'll let you start off with that one.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. So this is a fun one. So I've been waiting for this one. So thanks. But yeah, so personally, there are a number of things that I like to do outside of work. My whole life is investment and debt management. But personally, I love music and I play guitar. I also really enjoy hiking. And one of the awesome things about working at Merck is most people are able to take part of our Summer Friday program where we work a little bit extra Monday through Thursday, and then we're able to generally take a half day on Friday. So I definitely take advantage of that and get outside, and either I'll go biking or I'll go hiking on Friday afternoons. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me coming out of university and into the professional world was I was shocked by how much my free time was reduced. And actually, Simi brought this up about being in college and being in a really unstructured environment where you have a lot of free time. And it's kind of crazy how your first week of working is roughly 40 work hours. That's the equivalent of an entire college course in a semester, right? So and not to be scary, but it's amazing how much you have to kind of balance your work and your life, right? So I'm really fortunate that Merck really allows me to do that. And while I don't have a family right now, right, a lot of people that we work with have multiple children and are really able to manage that work-life balance. So the biggest thing that I can do is I'll recommend is a hard stop. So sometimes you can get caught up, right? We have work on our phone, on our iPad, on our laptop. So there has to be a point where you just completely disconnect. And a lot of times I'll give myself kind of a hard stop. I'll say, all right, at 5:15 p.m., I'm closing my laptop, and because this item isn't due tomorrow, and that can be a tomorrow problem. So I would definitely say make sure you take time to just disconnect, because it's amazing how much work and life can have an interplay when we have so much connectivity, and these great collaboration tools that Erin touched on can be a double-edged sword, right? So it's just about managing that and managing yourself in that. And but with that, Naomi will tell us about what she does in her free time as well.
So thank you, John. So in my free time, I'm somewhat of a health enthusiast. Angela can tell you about all the special, teas and remedies that, we go back and forth with. I love community engagement. I do like to I minored in social justice when I was in college. I majored in accounting. So I really do love to be involved in community service and engage in communities. And what's interesting about that is, the question is how do you balance time between your career and your personal interests? Coming to Merck has been completely liberating for me as a professional, because I have taken steps to have my everyday work and the things that I do at Merck so aligned with the things that I truly love. And so it's kind of like that old cliche saying, like, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. I've found more time to take care of my own health and to be involved in certain communities and certain projects that I truly care about and are aligned with my values. And so being at Merck and doing this type of work has transcended into every other aspect of my life. And I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give to middle school and high school students on the line, is that, your career isn't just a task. Your career is a very large body of work that you're always working on. It's your legacy. And that's something that I was a little bit older when I realized that. And so that's really how I've been balancing my career and my personal interests. They've been becoming way more intertwined, and really they're really balancing themselves out at this point. And so I think that's really been interesting and part of the reason why I love Merck so much, if you can't tell. So with that, I'll hand it back to Cindy.
Thanks, Naomi. So it seems like there is a question that came in through the Q&A. So I'll actually pass the ball over to Stephanie.
All right, and in the interest of time, I will be mindful of the time here, but I do just want to acknowledge and thank all of our speakers today for this amazing conversation. We certainly learned a lot around continuing education, what you do in your careers, utilizing technology, especially in this new normal that we're all a part of right now, and I'm sure will continue into the future. And of course, having those healthy balances between work life and those great pieces of advice for our middle school and high school students that are on the phone. So we just wanted to say, thank you so much for all of that. So in the interest of time, this question came in, and I'm not sure who wants to take it, but it's around the idea of mentorship. Does anybody on the line have a mentor, or what could you speak to? What is the importance of mentorship in your career as you are a young professional?
I can speak to that if no one else wants to go first, or. So I would say that having mentorship and guidance is critical and necessary. Navigating your career in massive companies such as Merck can be very hard, and you can lose a lot of valuable time if you don't have the right people around you. As we kind of spoke to before, there's a lot of companies where you'll hear about diversity and inclusion, or you'll hear about different internship opportunities, but you really want to put yourself in the right and in a place where, as Angela was saying, from the top down, the conduct of the people you're reporting to or mentors that you have really are fully supporting you and understanding what you want your career outlook to look like. And that's one of the valuable assets that I have here in my own career, which I was talking about earlier, that's allowed me to kind of have other opportunities for myself. So very important. If anyone wants to add.
I actually just want to add to what Naomi has mentioned. I think mentorship can happen in actually a lot of different forms. Most importantly, it's about building a trusted relationship and also having quality conversations. So we have formal mentorship. For example, I have one-on-one with my reporting manager every month, and then we have thorough conversation about my career development, and I ask a lot of questions to her. And at the same time, informal, I have a lot of coaches around me. I consult them for a lot of different, depending on the subject. We have a lot of conversations. For example, I talked to Jonathan a lot, also on career development. And in the meantime, I myself is also a mentor in our Merck's reverse mentoring internship and also internship mentorship. So I also have conversations with senior executives from our company, and then just to exchange ideas of what our generation is thinking about at the junior level employee, what's happening at our level, and what's the technology trend we are seeing in our peers. So those are the conversations I'm having with people around me, colleagues, in the work environment.
Fantastic. And I know we're close to time here, and I'll send this one question over to John in the next minute. We've got a question from Edward, who wants to know, how is your role in a pharmaceutical company differ from colleagues or peers that are in other industries?
Yeah, well, thanks, Ed, for your question, and I think it's a really insightful one. So I'll start by saying that something that George Merck, one of the company's founders, is we have quotes all over, and not only do we write this, but I feel like it's really embodied by a lot of our employees, but it's really always patience over profit. So I'd say that Merck and the pharmaceutical industry as a whole is very mission driven. We want to bring therapies to patients, in a lot of cases where no medicine, where no remedy exists. So I'd say that it's not always about kind of ROI, return on investment, as it might be in a very traditional business sense. I'd say it's very mission driven. But the other piece of this is, and I won't get too technical, but pharmaceuticals are, very, very regulated across the globe. Governments and of course the industry want to make sure patients are safe. So there's kind of a nuanced piece of regulation that makes our job, I think, a little bit different, where we have to really understand the business, if you will, not just the numbers. I'd say in some cases more than you might in other industries, which I really appreciate. I think it makes our space and our industry incredibly collaborative, where we're working with people, scientists in the research labs, people in the manufacturing plants, and people in our commercial divisions who are, reaching out to doctors and governments. So I'd say that makes it really collaborative as well.
Great, thanks, John. So we are at time, and I just want to quickly say to use this time to thank everyone in the audience for participating. Hopefully you guys can walk away with some great insights that will help you navigate any upcoming opportunities and challenges as you continue your education or start thinking about your career. To all the panelists, I want to thank you for all your valuable contributions. And lastly, thank you to the JA team and to Suwan for helping put together this event. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.
Bye, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.